Hi all, Fox from Fox and Kit Woodworks and Fox Den Videos bringing you the updated review on the WEN 7¼ 12 amp track saw. Go ahead and stay tuned to see what I have to say about it. So, first off, I have been using this WEN 7¼ 12 amp track saw now for a couple of months since my last review on it, and I've been able to use it on some more wood options. I know the last video I did, I was making the barn doors with some 3/4 inch plywood, or excuse me, not 3/4 inch plywood, 3/4 inch hickory, and we did have some bog downs on it because hickory is just so tough. So now I'm working on a new project. I'm actually making a sewing table for my mom, and I am cutting through some poplar. Now, I know that poplar isn't exactly one of the hardest woods out there, but the stuff I got here behind me is quite thick. So what is my updated review after using it for the last couple hours / days working on this project? So what do I have to say about this track saw and how it worked on my last project, which was doing the barn doors? Now on those barn doors, I was actually working with some, well, we'll call it 15/16 3/4-ish hickory. And I did have a few times where it bogged down, but now I've actually been using it more on some plywood, but also this poplar. Now I know poplar isn't one of the hardest woods, like I said earlier, but it's quite thick. And actually the thickness of this plywood is 1 13/16. So 1 inch and 13/16, almost 1 3/4, I guess 1 over 3/4. But it actually has worked relatively well. In fact, it's actually surprised me. I figured with this thicker wood, I might have some more times where it bogged down or maybe stopped. But honestly, I haven't had any issues with it except for one time where I was cutting near a split and the wood actually split and compressed on the blade, and that actually stopped it. But it actually has a feature with the blade where if the blade does stop, the motor will keep spinning, but it's not actually turning the blade and it doesn't actually do any damage to it, and it shut off. So that was actually kind of a nice feature that I didn't realize it had until I was cutting this thicker wood. I was able to actually get the blade out, get the track saw off, and then actually make my cuts, which worked out great. In fact, in front of you, you might be able to see just slightly out of view, but down here, very accurate. The tracks, I know I had some issues with before. They don't exactly line up between the 55 and the 50 inch for the like rubber runners here. If you look at it, this orange rubber runner right here. If you can see down here, it's actually a little off. Let me pull it up here for you guys. You can see where it's kind of offset, but the track itself, where it runs, is right here on the further away portion. It runs smoothly in. It lines up perfectly, no issues. So as I was working on it, I was actually cutting these boards down to 2 1/4 inches. Trying to figure out the blade alignment has been a little bit. We still have 4th of July fireworks going off, so mind the noise in the background. But back to the wood that I was cutting. Trying to line it up and where it exactly cuts, just trying to figure out where that edge is. I had set it up where I had made my marks at 2 1/4 inches, and when I made my cuts, I came out to 2 3/16 of an inch. I only need 2 inches on these boards, so it actually was very accurate. I measured it on the far side, the side nearest to you, and in the middle. All the cuts were right at 2 3. So as I was saying, I have been working on a sewing table for my mom, and one of the projects or parts of it is that I'm trying to cut it down to 20 inches wide. Now I had to use 2 different boards to make that happen, but on the cuts in front of you over here, as you can see, or just in front of me, I was actually cutting them down to 2 1/4 inches, so I'd have a little bit of extra to burn off when I do my final cuts. I made my marks at 2 1/4 inches, and when I actually lined it up the way I lined it up, it actually cut at 2 3/16 inch from the far side over here to the near side for you guys over here and the middle. So accuracy on this with these WEN tracks have actually been pretty good. And more importantly, what you probably want to know about is how did it cut this, 1 13/16 wood? Well, it cut it perfectly fine. I didn't have any issues with it bogging down or stalling on me. Like I said earlier, I had one time where the board actually was by a cut and it pinched it. But after that, and figuring out where I was going to make my cuts, I didn't have one single bog down through this, even though it is maybe poplar is a lower density board. It's not as hard as some of the other hardwoods on the Jenga scale, but Jinka scale. I'll have to look that up and how to say it properly. But it cut through it smoothly. So in this updated review, or I should say, you know, re-review of it, I have been very happy with how this WEN track saw has been operating and making the cuts. So what I'm going to go ahead and do here is I'm going to show you how well it actually cuts through this wood, and I'm also going to do a cut and a review on something I had talked about when it came to dust collection. Not using any type of dust collection on this thing is not the best choice. It spews a lot of dust out there. Hooking up the shop vac did help out quite a bit, but because of this hole here, which most track saws have, and you can buy an insert for it or put a piece of duct tape over, it will help significantly, but it still creates quite a bit of dust. But for the price point, with the fact that it was able to cut through this no issues and be so accurate, I think this is your best choice for a budget track saw. So go ahead and stay tuned. I'm going to go ahead and get set up to be able to make these cuts, and I'll show you the difference between dust collection with no dust collection. Okay, we're back, and I have set up the track on the piece of poplar here that we're going to be cutting. I've got about a 1/2 inch cut that I'm making here. The way I ended up doing this measurement is I took my tape measure, put my mark at a 1/2 inch, and I'm actually lining it up on the, we'll say, further away from you side. So it's going to probably cut it just a little bit shorter than a 1/2 inch, or a little bit longer than a 1/2 inch. But we're going to go ahead and show you in real time how well this works with cutting through this piece of poplar. I'm not going to edit it. I'm not going to stop it. If you don't like it because it takes too long, sorry. I just want to show you guys the kind of power that this 12 amp offers you versus the 6.5 inch 10 amp. How much more power you get out of this. So I'm going to go ahead and grab it, set it up, and I'm also going to show you at the same time the dust that comes from it without dust collection. So as you can see, we're nice and in the grooves, and we're going to go ahead and start making our cut. Oops, need power. And fireworks. Happy 5th of July. So as the smoke screen settles here, you can see with no dust collection, there is quite a bit of dust that gets kicked out of this, which with any power tool, we're going to have a lot of dust when we're doing these cuts. However, as you can see, I was moving quite steadily, through this whole piece without much resistance. And I'm still just using the WEN blade. I haven't even switched it out to the Freud blade that I ended up picking up for this. So what we're going to do is I'm going to get set up, and I'm going to flip this board around, or at least move the track over. And we're going to go ahead and make a cut on the other side. And we're going to show you what it's going to look like with some dust collection. Okay, so we are now set up for our next cut. I'm going to double check everything before I move any further. But we're set up for basically a little bit of a 1/4 inch cut, and we're going to take this down to about 16.25 inches from the opposing side that we just cut, so we have nice parallel lines. And I'm going to be go ahead and running my Craftsman 6 horsepower shop vac, and we're going to see how much better dust collection we get out of this. Now, what you're going to see is there's still going to be probably a decent amount of dust because of this porthole here, but it's going to be a lot better than what you just saw me run. But I just want you guys to be able to see the dust collection overall on this thing. I'm not going to do it with this taped over because I did kind of not see that big of a difference. There's a little bit of a difference, but let's just go ahead and see how it goes. Also, I want to let you know that it might stop during it. Right now I'm hooked up to a 20 amp circuit, but I have noticed that with this track saw being a 12 amp, and I believe that Craftsman being like a closer to 10 amp, sometimes the power draw gets a little bit too heavy and it does pop the circuit breaker, but I will see what we can do and we'll go from there. Okay, so as you can see, still quite a bit of dust that we get out of it, but much less than when we didn't have a dust extractor hooked up to it. You did see me stop back over here. I don't know if that was me letting off the trigger a little bit or I was moving too fast and it actually did that shut off where the blade doesn't spin and the motor starts shut down. But I was able to turn it back on. Didn't pop the breaker, so that was a good thing. But overall, I mean, I am very impressed with the fact that it's cutting this. You can't see it in the video, but it is very smooth, no burn marks, no tear out with the factory blade. So my updated review still stays the same. If you are looking to get into a budget track saw, not trying to break the bank, whether it's because you're just a DIY enthusiast trying to get stuff done on the weekends, or if you are a small business like I am, working out of the garage, and you need a track saw to cut sheet goods down or even harder woods, this thing works phenomenal. Go ahead and hit that like, subscribe, notification button. I'll be doing more videos on this and some other tools that I have in the garage that you haven't seen quite yet for this build. Stay safe. Have a great day.